grandmother a couple years back, and it was Christmas time, and he was very bitter and angry and kind of pushed everybody away, and that's hard for me, who's a person who really likes to get in there and do something and make it better, and I couldn't do anything about it except for pray for him, and I ended up writing this song and learned a lot through writing it about healing and hope, and that the song wasn't just for him, it was for me and for a lot of people. So, anyways. Last night I came home, tried not to feel anything at all. Last night I came home, tried not to feel anything at all. No joy, no cheer, no peace on earth, no Last night I saw the lights on the tree and tried to feel anything. Last night I saw the lights on the tree and tried to feel anything. No joy, no cheer, no peace on earth, Last night I cried 'cause I could feel everything at all. Last night I cried 'cause I could feel everything you feel. Just hurt, just fear, just pain on earth. Last night I dreamed of a girl and her baby, and last night
So I hope it was okay to do a Christmas song. That was Jessica. I should have introduced them, and I didn't. That was Jessica. She wrote that one. And then Danielle played before that. She wrote that song. And I'll try to remember to introduce everybody today. This is Faith, who wrote this song here. And she's going to be accompanied by Grace next to her. And Michael. Everybody knows Michael. The troublemaker.
Sun may set without me, but it will rise in the morning. You'll not forget me when it sets again tomorrow at 7:43. And he paints a bright orange picture just for me. He paints a bright orange picture and splatters it with glitter and makes that pretty picture just for me. The sky has turned to dusk again. It happens every day at this time. It shows me all the shadows, the whippoorwills and their sorrows. They sing into the twilight just before it turns to night. And I'll sit still in the picture while they sing their pretty picture just for me. He paints a bright orange picture and splatters it with glitter and makes that pretty picture just for me. Moonlight. The moon might rise alone tonight. Eventually I'll join him, and he will try and race me. I'll catch up with him sometime, and his companions and their starlight glowing in the night. He'll scatter them like glitter to make that pretty picture just for me. He paints a bright orange picture and splatters it with glitter and makes that pretty picture just for me. He paints a bright orange picture and splatters it with glitter and makes that pretty picture just for me. He makes that pretty picture. I sit still in the mixture. They sing their pretty picture. He paints that pretty picture just for me.
Okay. Next time, you'll have to hear her Johnny Cash song. She's not for doing it right now. I don't know exactly what happened there, but I have to tell you this funny story because she was reminded of this when we were praying up here earlier, and we hadn't thought about it in a while. We travel all the time, throughout the year. As Richard was saying, we go around the country in Canada, and we were on the road all the time. We never came off the road. So you get tired being in a van all the time, and concert after concert, outreach after outreach. We were doing a concert once, and Faith was up there singing, and she was standing there singing a song, and while she was singing and playing, she fell asleep. And then woke up and went right back to playing and singing.
She said she had hiccups, that's why she was laughing.
Well, I'm gonna try not to laugh, but you guys can if you want to. Well, I hear the train coming and it's rolling around the bend, and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, 'cause I'm getting straight on. But that train it keeps on rolling. I'm down to San Antonio. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, sir, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. When I hear that whistle blowing, I hang my head and cry. But I bet there's been frosty in fancy dining cars, and they're probably drinking coffee and smoking big cigars. But I know I had it coming. I know I can be free. But those people keep moving, and that's what tortures me. But if they free me from this prison, if that railroad train was mine, then I'd move a little lower, little farther down the line. Far from Folsom Prison, that's where I want to stay. And I let that lonesome whistle blow my blues away.
She wasn't supposed to do that. So now, redemption, you tricked me there.
I think they might have liked it. I'm a firm believer that Jesus loved Johnny Cash too. So. Trying to redeem myself. Lord, I find you in the seeking. Lord, I find you in the down. And to know you is to love you, and to know so little else I need you. Oh, how I need you.
actually wrote, and it's just about needing God and kind of like that, but I just wrote it this summer, so. about being happy with where God has you in life. And we travel around the country all the time in a little 15-passenger van, and we sing for people, and that's what we do. And sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's rough, but that's where God has me right now. That's what God has us doing. So this song's just about being happy there. And for you guys, like in your life, you know, in your church, in your work, in your school, whatever you're doing, I just want to encourage you to be happy there and be content and look for what God has you doing in that situation.
It's called the Back of the Van song because it came out of the back of the van.
It's not called the Back of the Van song. He's kind of getting older, so he kind of forgets things, and sometimes he picks his own names for our songs, and he just goes with them, and because he's older, we just kind of let him do his thing and don't correct him, but it's actually called I Wanna Sing.
Traveling down the road, got a ways to go. Sometimes it's hard to take it slower, but I wanna be here and I wanna sing. I wanna be everything you need me to be, where you put me. I wanna belong wherever I am, singing your songs. This life is crowded and busy. We sing our hearts out again. Trying, 'cause I wanna be here and I wanna sing. I wanna be everything you need me to be, where you put me. I wanna belong wherever I am, singing your songs. I guess life isn't always pretty, but nothing's off the life that I have with you. So baby Jesus, if you're pleased, then I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna sing. I wanna be everything you need me to be, where you put me. I wanna belong wherever I am, singing your songs. And I've never been so happy as I am when I'm with you. So while you're sticking with me, then I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna sing. I wanna be everything you need me to be, where you put me. I'm gonna belong wherever I am, singing your songs. I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna sing. I'm gonna be everything you need me to be, where you put me. I'm gonna belong wherever I am, singing your songs. I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna sing. I'm gonna be everything you need me to be, where you put me. I'm gonna belong wherever I am, singing your songs.
I don't know if he's gonna introduce me. His youngest son, Ben. He forgets. I'm just a poor wayfaring stranger. I'm traveling through this world of war. There ain't no sickness, total danger. In that bright land I'm headed for. And I'm going there to see my father. He says he'll meet me when I go. And I'm only going over Jordan. And I'm only going over home. And I'll soon be done with earthly trials. My body sleeps in the old churchyard. And I'll drop this cross of self-denial and enter on my great reward. And I'm going there to see my father. He says he'll be me when I go. And I'm only going over Jordan. And I'm only going over
I'm just a poor wayfaring stranger, driving through this world of war. There ain't no sickness, toil, or danger in that bright land I'm headed for. And I'm going there to see my Father. He says he'll meet me when I go. And I'm only going over Jordan. And I'm only going over home.
They readjust my strap. And Michael messes with my song list and then blames it on my memory. No, I'm very blessed in what God has done in their lives. And he's been faithful. And this has been a really long and hard year. And they're supposed to be done Christmas Eve and get a little bit of a break. And I'm honored and blessed that they wanted to do this here at this time and do it in my hometown. And it's a big deal to me. And you know, spiritual things, how they work, we haven't been able to play in my hometown. And well, forever, really, except when we came here in July. And it is for lots of reasons, but spiritually significant reasons, what Richard was bringing up earlier, that some of us have known and watched and paid attention to for a long time. And principalities and powers here, and because of what happened to me in my life here, just but I want to, how many people here have heard my testimony? Okay. I'm going to share this story with you guys so you'll understand more the significance of this morning, that it's that there's more going on here than meets the eye. And what a way to end this year for me and my family. And the thing is some things did happen in July, and I haven't checked in with him and the pastor here and shared the things that have taken place since then. But it was an amazing time, and so you can understand what we're talking about. I'll just give you a little bit of the history, and it's the introduction to my next song that I wrote for my son Bo. And all right, which one of you girls took my throat spray? These guys. Maybe that'll help. Okay, I was from Brandon, went to Brandon High School, and got married right out of high school, and then in college went through a divorce. I was devastated. I did not want to be divorced, and wanted to die, and I tried to die, and God literally saved me. And when he did, I wanted to know why he kept me alive, because it didn't make sense to me to be here anymore, because I'd married for life, and it just didn't make sense. And so I went to the far northern parts of the U.S. I went to, at that time to me, I went to South Georgia to thought I was in Yankee country. sat under a pine tree on my grandparents' farm and told God I wasn't leaving until he told me why he kept me here, because it didn't make any sense to me. I didn't want to go on, and there must be some reason that he kept me alive. Now, the religion I was raised in, God didn't talk to you much, ever, at all, I think. But I was determined to hear from him and sat there a long time, and God revealed himself to me, and he gave me a vision, what he wanted me to do in my life, and a calling on my life, and why he kept me here. And I was excited. I was just like, wow, God, the creator of the universe, he actually wants me to do something. He's put me here for a reason. It's something he wants me to start and do. And so I rushed back to my hometown, and this is really weird, and shared with my religious leader what God was calling me to do, and he needed to help me get started and show me what seminary to go to and how to start this thing. And he told me, no, you can't. And I said, what do you mean I can't? I have to. God's calling me and telling me to. He says, you can't because you're divorced. I said, yeah, but God knows I'm divorced, and he knows I don't want to be divorced, and he could put me back with my wife at any minute, and that'd be perfectly fine with me. And besides, he's calling me to the ministry, and I think he can work this out. And I didn't know much about doctrines and denominationalism and all that stuff back then. And so I debated with my religious leader, and left that meeting a very hurt and broken young man, being told I couldn't have heard from God because I can't do this in the church. I can't do ministry in the church. And so several other things happened that I can't discuss here because I'm in my hometown. But I ended up leaving one evening and walking up Lady Guinevere Drive and saying, God, I don't understand this. People think I'm crazy because I heard from you and trying to do what you say, and I'm fasting, praying, I'm reading the word, it says do it, I do it, and people are telling me, crazy houses are filled with people who take the Bible literally, and I can't figure this out. I thought I heard from you, and I want to do what you called me to do and telling me to do, but I know that I don't want to be crazy hearing voices that aren't really there, and it's not really you. And so, like I said, there's a lot more to this story, but I can't really share it here. I just walked. I said, God, get me through this. And as a singer-songwriter, musician, I am a member of the Nashville Songwriters Association, member of the Los Angeles Songwriters Association. We knew that the movie industry was coming to Florida and to Orlando, and I had this idea that if I could start this songwriting organization like NSA and start this thing that would create this hub of all these artists and writers and musicians, that we could get work, like in LA or New York or Nashville. And so I started this thing called the Florida Songwriters Association, and it took off really fast. It got really big really fast. And I knew that I needed a place to base out of, and I found a bunch of boarded up old buildings, historic district of Tampa, a place called Ybor City, and I found an old theater, and I said, this will work. And it's cheap real estate, because in those days, white people didn't go down in the day, and black people didn't go at night. It was high crime. Some of you may remember those days. And it was but that just meant really cheap real estate. So I got with the real estate developer. I said, look, I can get people down here. And he says, if you can get people down here, I can get investors. And I said, yeah, but I can get a lot of people down here. He says, well, I can get a lot of investors. I says, we're going to need more than this building. He says, you bring the people and I'll get the buildings. And so we started on this thing, and there was a plan, and it kind of grew, and it was kind of became to be like another Bourbon Street, except cool for kids, and music was the theme, going to be the theme of the whole place. And go down the road a bit, and at the end for me there was a place called the Ritz Theater, 7th and 15th, and I was doing 2 shows a night there, predominantly death metal music. That's kind of what people knew me for, because I was from Brandon, and I happened to know all these bands that we used to set up in these fields out here and do these keg parties, and I knew all these musicians, and that happened to be where they went to. I mean, why not? They're a bunch of suburban kids who've got nothing better to do, and their parents are gone all the time, and they got money, and anyway, some of you know the story because you went through that, or you were here during those times, but anyway, a lot of bands, a lot of death metal bands came out of this area, and I just happened to know the people. And the building next to that was the W.T. Grant building, but at that time, I don't remember what we called it now, but it was a hardcore building, and we do 2,000 to 3,000 kids in there, do like 8 bands, and it was a place they could come in. It was hardcore music, skinhead music, ska, punk, just hardcore stuff, but it was like kids could come in there and it was like a big mosh pit. They could get violent and destructive. And I started a thing in this area then called all-age shows, that you could have people under the drinking age and over the drinking age in the same show at the same time and serve alcohol. A very bad thing. And unfortunately, it's still going on today. Above that was an open loft where there was open homosexuality practice. Above the theater was 7 apartments where we had a practicing vampire living and 2 practicing witches. And I had an apartment on the corner for entertainment purposes. By this time, I was highly addicted to you name it, I did it. And below that was the Ritz Cafe, which was kind of like it was a venue, concert venue, but it was like one night would be jazz, one night would be blues. It was real progressive stuff there, art film night. And it was like a coffee house, restaurant, and but it really was a way for me to be able to get a full liquor license without signing up with the mob. And then I had to do that because I had to then change the zoning so we could wet zone 7th Avenue and serve alcohol down the strip. One night I went into the theater and I sat down and I listened to the band, and which I didn't do that much, but I listened to them, and because it felt really weird in there, and it was just felt really weird. And so I listened, and they're calling up for demonic spirits and demons the way we would now pray for the Holy Spirit or pray for angels. And I'm like, listen, these guys are serious about their Satan worship. They're serious about this. They're not messing around. They're really serious about it. And up until that point, I just didn't take it seriously. Why should I? You know, if I didn't hear from God and heaven's not real, why should I worry about hell? Okay? We have a very important job as a Christian. What we tell baby Christians, what we tell young Christians, young people, people who are watching us and looking to us, it's real important. Because when we get rejected by the church, Satan is like right there going, well, I'll use you. And he does. And what all I did down there happened really easy. It wasn't that I had any great skill. It all fell into my lap. And all of a sudden I'm sitting here realizing this whole place, all these venues, I helped a lot of other people start venues to get this original music scene going, because before that it was all bar bands and stuff, but this was all original music with venues. And I realized that everything we're doing is centered around darkness. They weren't just clubs. It wasn't just music. It's all about darkness. It's a dark scene. the next phase of what we were doing was the death scene and the bands we had playing and stuff. Marilyn Manson was one of the kids that came there during those times. He wasn't Marilyn Manson then, he was just one of the kids. Darkness hit me. It was like, whoa, darkness, what does that really mean? I thought up until that point, these guys were all just doing it to make money. They were just trying to do it to be a little further out there, shock value with the music and deal with teenage rebellion and teenage angst. And it was just a show, and it was just to make money, sell more albums. And I realized this night that this band was very serious about their Satan worship. And all of a sudden, God in His grace and His mercy reminded me of a band I had in the hardcore side, a band from here called Pagan Faith, and how they talked about what Jesus Christ could do to them sexually from their platform. And I realized that I had just exposed a couple thousand teenage kids to that, including some of my nephews and my little sister. And that to these young people, I'm created this environment to where somebody could get up there and say that about Jesus. And it's like, that's not cool. God started reminding me from the pit of my belly, it started coming up who Jesus had been my whole life to me. How when family failed me, Jesus was there. How when friends failed me, Jesus was there. How education would fail me, Jesus was there. Money would fail me, Jesus was there. And He was always made it okay. When government fails you, government will always fail you. That's the end of my political statement. Okay? It's all about Jesus and His kingdom. His party. Okay. You know what I'm talking about. All these things that would fail me, Jesus was always there, and God would remind me of situation after situation. And Jesus made life okay, and He made it just because of what He said. And that He actually came here and said those things and did those things was like, when everything got crazy around me, I could think about that and who He was and what He did, and it made things okay. My whole life, it was like, and now what I've done is I've started this whole venue, this whole thing, and it's based in darkness, and it's about evil. And what evil is at its core, at its root, is that if it could, it would destroy Jesus Christ. And it's like all of a sudden it just like exploded in my head, and that's my Jesus. That's Jesus. I went out and told my staff out of the bar, I went out and told them, we can't have any more of these kind of bands. And they said, why? I said, because they're evil. They laughed at me. It's like, I wasn't going to stop this. It was like a bulldozer steamroller moving forward. And this is where we made all our money. And I wasn't going to stop it. Well, God in His grace and His mercy knew I wanted out, knew that this all needed to change and end, and that I wanted it to for me. And I tried to shut everything down I possibly could. But it was too late. It was already rolling. But anyway, God, to get me out, you don't just get out when you're in that deep. You don't just jump out, and it doesn't happen that way. But God in His grace and His mercy, to get me out, what He did is He gave me a son. And when my son was born, they told me that I had important decisions to make, that if my son lived, he would only live to be 1 year old. And if he lived to be a year old, he'd be a vegetable. And so they encouraged us to let him die. They said our financial situation would change. Our lifestyle would change too much. And to me, to let him die, I didn't think that was legal in America. It is. And they starved the children to death, and to me, that's murder. And so I held my son, and I'm like, doctors are telling me, let him die. And I said, God, there's no reason for you to ever listen to me again, or ever speak to me, or ever do anything for me again after this really bad scene I've started and all this bad stuff I did. But if you'll keep my son alive, I'll do whatever you say the rest of my life. And so a process began. My son had Cruzon syndrome when he was born, and that's where the soft spots grow together prematurely before the child's born. They have to do a series of surgeries where they peel the scalp off the face and off the back of the head, and they take the skull and they cut it off, take it out, cut pieces off, put back in, seed bone and bridge bone they call it, and it makes room for the brain to grow, and then the skull grows back over. One surgery, they took the back of his head and took it out and shaped and molded a new forehead, took his forehead out, put this new forehead in. They would take and build new eye orbits. They'd take the center of his face and break it in pieces, move it out an inch this way. They would take where his ears were supposed to be. It was just a solid mass there, and they would drill holes, and they would take skin graft from his legs, make new ear canals, go inside and take bone and muscle, make new eardrums. A whole series of surgeries to do that. They would take rib bone to build new cheekbone. They'd take rib bone to build a new nose, rib bone to fill in holes. Many, many, many surgeries through the years, many miracles we witnessed. And we could do a miracle service here talking about those, but the biggest miracle is me, and it's what God did in my life through all of those surgeries and having to be at hospitals and doctor's office and be around parents watching their children die and siblings watching just hard things. And the things I'd always kind of turned away from and didn't pay attention to and didn't want to see, and so pretended wasn't there. But I had to face them. I had to face them every day over and over and over again, hard things. And I wanted my son to live, so I wanted to do whatever God wanted me to do, because I thought that's how it worked. You just do whatever God says, and then he'll be there for you. And my life just continued to change and continued to change. And one day I said, God, you said you came to give me life and life more abundantly, and you were going to bring me into wholeness, and that's not what's happening. You know, I'm crying. My heart is like it's breaking all the time. He said, it is. I'm healing you. I said, yeah, but then I'm crying all the time. What is that? You know, because big boys don't cry. And he says, no, I'm healing you. That's the outward signs. And God would continue to break my heart over and over again, and I couldn't run from it. I had to stay in it. And in that broken place, I would continue to cry out to him, because he's all I had. And in my life, I wanted my son to live. And by this point, it was if I wanted to live. It's like, God is everything. And I just want him to fix everything in me, and just fix it and fix it and fix it. And then I started realizing that he did call me to something. He did have something he wanted me to do. And I came from writing this song for my son and all these kids that I watched how God used them to change and transform my life, and that he would use them as my drug rehab. He would use them as my behavior modification. And they had a purpose and a reason for being here. And I was one of those guys that said, well, if you're a perfect God, if you're there, what about accidents and mistakes like handicapped children? And through this process, he showed me they weren't accidents, they weren't mistakes. They were here for a reason, many reasons, but one that was special to me is God would use them to transform and change my life. And that was a big deal to me. And so I wrote this song for my son and for these other handicapped children I was meeting. And I wanted to encourage them. And through that, then it became a song, became a video, became an album, became a video album. Next thing I know, I'm in Nashville and nominated for a Dove Award. And 6 months into the whole deal, I took a really good hard look at it, and I said, no, if I stay here, I'll die here. And so I walked away from every songwriter's dream and what I'd wanted my whole life, because I knew that was all about money. And Jesus, because of where I came from, music and the scene and stuff, Jesus meant something to me, and I needed to follow him. And that was the way I needed to go. And he was calling me to the streets, because he showed me something else I didn't know that existed before, being from Brandon, my hometown. I didn't know anything about homeless people. And if they were there, I never saw them. And he showed me them and broke my heart again. And I got a real heart for the poor. And so I knew that I needed to go to the streets. I knew that I needed to go to drug rehabs and help kids get off of drugs, because I'd helped so many get on. And in Nashville, they didn't understand that, because everybody had to pay my $3,000 flat fee, and these guys couldn't afford that. And so I said, no, I need to go to where Jesus is calling me and leading me. And so I left, and then the Lord led me onto the road, and I took my family with me. And 13 years into Bo's life, they were going to have to do another surgery where they were going to rebuild his head. And this time, they were going to mount an aluminum halo and 4 screws on one side, 5 in the other, with a stainless steel beam off the front, a piece of hardware at the bottom with 4 cables, one into each side of his nostril, one into each side of his upper palate, and then it was clamped together with hardware on the inside of his mouth. And when they had his face peeled back, they would break this bone here at the base of the brain, and but you have to leave everything attached or you'll die. So they then sewed him back up, and with his face wired shut, we would screw his face forward twice a day until we moved it out 1.5 inches. And we'd had to feed him with a syringe for 3 months. So they told us, you got to give him something to look forward to, because he's going to have 3 months of sitting perfectly still. You feeding him with a syringe, and if he makes it through the surgery. And so it was Christmas time, and I didn't know what all this meant, but I prayed, and being a faith-based ministry, not having much, the family Christmas present became this Casio keyboard I got for Christmas. Didn't know why. God just had me get it. I got it. Bo taught himself to play that keyboard. He taught himself my songs. He taught his little sister to play the keyboard. He taught her my songs. And he got all his brothers and sisters, his other brother's not here right now, but he got them all to play music and start doing music so that he could sing harmony with his daddy, something he had always wanted to do. And those that know me, he did all this in 4 months. He did it in April. We played our first concert then in the Tabernacle, Timmy Buckingham's church there in Melbourne, Florida. He did that in 4 months, and that was the most incredible miracle that God could do that, because see, I was there all that time when they were, he used to wear a bone oscillator underneath his hat that would just vibrate his skull, and they taught him through therapists, sometimes 5 days a week, how to interpret these vibrations in case he ever did get the proper technology caught up and he got some kind of hearing apparatus, and he might be able to translate these vibrations and be able to speak a few words. And then what God did was something that nobody can explain, because music just was in him, and he had all those years wanted to sing harmony and tried to learn, and then the next thing we know, he just knew how to play everything. He just knew how to do it. He didn't have any lessons. He just knew how to do it. So that miracle kind of nailed me between the eyes. And anybody that knew me from Brandon back in those days, my old guitar player was John Wesley, or Wesley Dirth from Brandon, which opens for Pink Floyd. I didn't play with just any musicians. I played with the best that I could find, and still gave them a hard time. But God is so amazing, because what he did is I wasn't going to get in the way of this. If God could do that, it was a miracle. And so I just let my kids play music with me and continue to travel and do ministry. And I want to call Bo and Danielle up here. And as they continued to do that, God continued to bless, and at least I'm blessed by their songs and what they're doing with their music. And I'm a proud father, but the reason I'm sharing this is because I'm in my hometown. It's really weird when you travel the country and you play all kinds of venues and festivals and all kinds of TV shows and all kinds of stuff, but you don't get to play at home. And then now I do, and I'm just very blessed by this, guys. The song I wrote for Bo, like I said, it began to become very clear to me. I had a call in my life as well, and I needed to go follow God. Not money, not Nashville, but follow God, and then be obedient to Him. And that obedience was my first album, and which was kind of crazy. How you're going to reach a bunch of kids with an album called Obedience? But if you knew where I came from, and the people that knew where I came from, saw that as a big deal, that I would say that, and that would be my album. And I'm still saying obedience is the key. Yeah. So we can pray, and we can ask God to pour out, and He does. But I just want to throw this in here as you go into this new year, that He has something He wants you guys to do here. This is a big deal, and just be obedient where He takes you, what He does.
It's a good word.
So, oh, you may be big, or you may be small. You may look different, funny or too tall. I wish I could tell you they won't hurt you at all, but I can't. Remember, they hung Him from a tree. Like Him, God sent you here to change something. Men's lives and children's hearts. Do what you came here for. Make us laugh and show us how to cry. Help us sing thankful to be alive. Make us laugh, teach us how to cry. Do what you came here for. So you don't have eyes to see nor ears to hear. You can touch men's hearts with no hands. Go places without any fear. Imagine singing songs without speech. So remember, looks they don't mean a thing. People may not understand. So when they hurt you, don't forget it's in His hands. Do what you came here for. Broken hearts and stolen dreams. Do what you came here for. Forgive them, they know not what they do. And teach us things that can only come from You. Broken hearts and stolen dreams. Do what you came here for. Broken hearts and stolen dreams. Do what you came here for. 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 Do what you came here I don't know. I have no idea what time it is. If you want us to do one more, if you want me to turn it over to you, Pastor,
I want you to turn over to me and then do one more.
Oh.
I want to talk for a second. All right. You know, guys, these guys came here not asking anything of us, and that was very clear. What we were going to do is just simply let you be blessed by their time, blessed by their story, and then respond by helping them to be here. How many did you travel with this time?
We all
11. So 11 of them came cross country to be here, and praise God, they get to see some family in the process. And so I want us to just take a moment, and we want to take an offering for them. And so we haven't taken our regular tithes and offerings this morning. So please listen to this part. I would like you to bring a special offering. We're going to make sure that they have this before they leave town. And I'd like you, if you could, to bring that and put that on this side, okay, of the stage, as you just are, thanking God for them. And then for your regular tithes and offerings, put them on your left side, all right, my right side of the stage, all right. So regular tithes and offerings, and just mark it also. But everything over here, we want to bless them with and send them with, and this will be our regular Sunday morning tithes and offerings. I want to tell you, as a church family, I told you the last couple of weeks some things that were happening around here, and I told you some challenges that had been presented to us by the bank. Basically, in a matter of about 60 days, they were saying we had to come up with about the equivalent of about $55,000-$60,000, or we were going to be in a real tough situation with them. Well, through miracles and through just blessings of the Lord, we did what they asked us to do, to put a roof on this place. And then they said we had to have what we thought was an exorbitant amount of money to close. And we told you the last couple of weeks that we believed God was going to do that you had been so faithful, that the Lord had just miraculously answered. And in this last week, He gave us every penny we need to do what we needed to do. God has worked miracle after miracle in the last couple of months to just say, my hand is on this place and I'm doing something. So thank you for being part of that, and for you that just were so encouraging in those early stages of talking about that came and said, this is what we want to do, this is what we'll commit. And there wasn't a lot of solicitation for that, but there was a response of your heart to the Lord. Thank you very much. We are forever grateful. So I want you to come and put over here. So in front of beautiful Bo here, I want you to put the offering, for the Clark family, and your Sunday morning tithes and offerings on this side of the stage over here. Would you do that as you worship the Lord? You guys take us out. All right?
I didn't know that story about how the Lord had just blessed y'all, but I do believe something's very important and special is going to happen here at this place because of I know a lot of stories about Brandon and my relationship here, and very, very honored and blessed to be here and be a part of what God's going to do in this place.